Hello, my name's James Digby. I'm the Managing Director of Bright. We specialise in helping educational organisations with attracting more people. So that might be parents, that might be pupils, it might be staff, it might even be customers and clients. Today we're going to be talking through how you can use the free features in LinkedIn to attract some of those people. We are going to start off by going through what you can update in your profile. Then we'll talk a little bit about what you can do to update your organization's profile. And then we'll split the rest of the session into how you can use LinkedIn to attract people through marketing, and then how you can use LinkedIn to recruit. There is a lot of overlap between the different areas, but let's start off with going through some information about your LinkedIn profile. So the first tip that I have for LinkedIn is your ability over here on the right hand side using the pencil icon to change the URL that you get as standard. The reason that you might want to do that is just to make it look a little bit cleaner. I've seen people use this on their email signatures, for example, and it does also help people to find you. So after the / at the end here, I had a long series of numbers. I now have my name with my middle initial. It just tidies it up a little bit. So it's a good place to start, especially if you're not really sure where to start with updating your LinkedIn profile. The next thing to do would be to update using the same pencil option, this text across the bottom of your name. We know that the most common thing that people do on LinkedIn is look at other people's profiles, and the best way to make a good first impression is to be very clear in what your intent is for LinkedIn. So I've updated this just to explain what I'm on LinkedIn for, what do I do as a person, what do I do as an extension of Bright. But this might be something that you update regularly. So if you're a recruiter, it might be what you're currently looking to recruit for. It might also be something to do with marketing. So it could be, are you looking to network with marketing managers of schools, for example? Are you looking to network with alumni? Are you looking to network with people who might be suitable for your school or your organization? So definitely update this. For your banner, I would typically recommend that you have a common theme across your school, business or organization. So here we have a banner that is branded as Bright. It just explains what we do. We have our tagline here. It does help people to know that they've landed on a genuine profile for your organization, and it just makes everything look a little bit neater and a little bit tidier. We've also got some professional photos done that are all the same across our accounts, and again that just adds to the impact of people knowing that this is a genuine profile for somebody working within Bright. As we go further down, you get to the About section. So this can be updated again to give a bit more detail about who you're trying to network with and why you want to network with them. So for recruitment, that might be a list of the types of jobs that you recruit for. And for marketing, that might be some information about the types of people you want to network with. So they might be your peers, they might be people doing similar kind of professions, or they might be people that you're wanting to actually market your services to. As we get further down, we can see your activity. We're going to come back to this, but this is a great way to see what's working when you're posting content. And then when we get down to experience, my recommendation would be to focus on your most recent role. So provide some detail there and provide a link through to your website or a landing page so that you can actually drive traffic from LinkedIn to whatever it is that you're promoting out, whether that is an opportunity, whether that is the service or the product that you're looking to market out. It's great to kind of make that as simple as possible. So if it is for one of those things, make sure it goes directly there and not to a homepage. Further down you go, the less information you should have. I do see some people kind of seeing this as a CV and posting a lot of information there. So keep this as light touch as possible, and you'll find that you get a lot more engagement because people will focus on the content at the top of it. A lot of people ask me about the skills. In my experience, they don't really do anything. Sometimes they help from a recruitment point of view, but if you do want to use them at least a little bit for people, you can use this pencil icon here, and what you can do is you can go through and you can edit the skills that you have there, so that you're really only showing things that are relevant. I used to recruit within the healthcare sector, for example, so it says that I have lots of medical skills, but because I used to recruit for doctors, it doesn't mean that I am a doctor. So very light touch for your LinkedIn profile, mainly because I feel that the tool that you get with LinkedIn when you set up your profile, when you're editing your profile, that I'm in now, which allows me to edit everything, it will take you through those steps in a very nice and clean way. But just some of those tips that I've shared with you should hopefully be able to increase the engagement you get. And then one final check, clicking on this contact info section here, would just be to make sure that you don't have any phone numbers like your mobile number, you don't have any email addresses like your personal email address, just because we know that people that accidentally leave those there tend to get bombarded with sales calls, tend to get bombarded a little bit from recruiters and similar people like that. So just be careful with that contact information. So once you've got your profile, the main thing that you'll be wanting to do would be to update your network to start to grow it a little bit. I would recommend that if you are a marketing manager or HR manager, you start by connecting with your peers. So for example, just searching in the top here, I can put in HR manager if I wanted to connect with HR managers. And then I would select the people results because I want to be connecting with people, not businesses. And I would limit this to the United Kingdom because initially it'd be good to network with people local to you. And then I would use this all filters option to filter down people that are in my industry. So if you're an educational organisation, you can put in education, or you can put in education administration programs, whichever you think might be relevant, or higher education. If you're a school or a trust, you'd want to use primary and secondary education. And then when you can click filter, it will start to show people that you can connect with. So up here, because I already have a number of HR managers as connections, I'm just going to want to put second tier connections. So this gives me the ability to scroll through and find the kind of people that I might want to connect with. So for example, if I wanted to connect with Danny here, I could click connect. I can add a note, so I can explain to Danny why I'm wanting to connect, or I can send without a note. If I do add a note, the nice thing is that it adds it to your messages up here when that person accepts. When they accept without a note, they tend to go into notifications, which in my experience means that they tend to get lost a little bit. So I typically send a message when I'm inviting people to connect. The next thing that I would say would be to have a look through what you could be posting and sharing with people. So on the right hand side, you can click show more, and this news section is just about content that people are talking about online. So for example, I'm going to want to avoid something that is political here, but I might want to be talking to people about 4-day working weeks because I might be in HR, for example. So I have the ability to click through here. I can read a summary about what these articles are, and I can scroll through and I can see some posts about each of these topics. If that's suitable for me, a very quick way to do this would just be to repost to your feed. When you click this, it's put it into a very nice format and it saves you lots of time. So you can just explain why you're sharing this. You might have positive views about this, or you might have negative views about this. So you can write that text in here before you click post. I think a very important thing to consider with LinkedIn content, whether you're taking that from the news feed, or maybe you're taking it from the BBC, for example, or an education website like TES, would be to consider that it's got to be clean and tidy for people to engage with it, and LinkedIn will give it some kind of value. So say you're just sharing for some reason the homepage for TES, but say I found a news article on TES, I can post this in, and once I've done that, it's created kind of a button here for people to click on. I can delete that URL, and then I can write my thoughts and the reason for posting. That piece of value that is assigned to the content is going to change depending on whether you put text here or not, and it's going to change depending on how people engage with your content. So initially it's going to show it to a handful of people. So for example, I might like this content about creativity. LinkedIn's giving this content value by looking at whether people click see more, where people are liking it, commenting, reposting it, interacting with it in some way, even kind of clicking on some of the actions to click through and find some of the imagery and the content that they have there. So it's just a good idea to keep that in mind, that you want to be getting that initial value as high as possible. So a good number of words, at least 100 would be ideal. Visuals are brilliant, so anything to do with photographs and videography work really well. And just appreciate that it's going to be shown to your network first before it's shown to the people outside of your network. So make sure that whatever you're sharing has genuinely high value for those people, and then you'll typically see that your content gets better results. So that's how you share content. You click start a post, and you go in and you paste the URL, delete the URL once it's populated, and add some text. There are some additional options here. And a really good tip is to use the more option to perhaps celebrate an occasion. There's sharing that you're hiring, but my favorite is to create a poll. And the reason that I really like to create a poll is because it gets a good level of engagement. So this might be following on from the trend that we just talked about. It might be asking people, what are your views on the 4-day working week? And you can select a series of options here and decide how long it runs for. So apart from the fact that it is highly engaging for people, I also like the fact that at the end of this, there is the opportunity to share the results with people. But have a bit of an experiment with the different options that you have down the bottom here and see what kind of engagement that you get with that content. On your profile, you do have the ability on the left hand side here to see the number of impressions that your posts are getting. So you can go through and you can see why that might be. So it might be that you've seen a bit of a drop, and that might be because you're not posting enough, or it might be the content you're posting. So I can see here the number of impressions that I've received, and I can see that this type of visual graphic is getting a significantly better number of impressions than my other content. And what that tells me is that LinkedIn is showing it to people and they're engaging with it in some way, and that's kind of showing it to more people, and hopefully over time I'll build up a bit of traction with that. So that's how you start to kind of build your network. Invite people to connect with you that are your peers, and then start to share relevant content to that network, and that will then be shown to their network, and you'll start to get a bit of a snowball effect. From a marketing point of view, I think that there are a number of things that you could be doing, but the main thing that you could be doing would be to set up a page called company profile. You can do that by creating a new one, or you may well already have one, and if that's the case, find it on LinkedIn and then send a request through that company profile to the administrator to be added. And through these profiles, you can share content that's just relevant to you as a business, organization, or school. And it works in a very similar way to your own profile. Consider the value of the content that you're sharing. So we know what works well for our audience, and we know that we need to make it quite diverse. So a typical rule of thumb would be to share content in thirds. So 1/3 would be about marketing your organization out. That might be a mixture of recruitment, and it might be marketing as well. Another third would be content that's relevant to your sector. So that might be changes that's happening within the education sector. And then the final third would be things that are of interest to you. So maybe as a school, you're particularly famous for rowing, for example. It might be sharing content about rowing, or it might be sharing content about things that have happened inside your school. So have a really good mixture of things, but that rule of thirds tends to work well. You do have the ability to feature content at the top of your profile, and you do have the ability to copy the link to the post and then post this as an individual. So do make sure that you make the most of those options, and your content initially isn't going to be seen by many people unless you do that. So make sure that you go through and do that as often as possible. You can go through conversations here, so you can see my own post here is coming up as I'm marked as an employee of Bright. And then finally, every month you do get 250 connection invites to encourage your network to follow you as a company profile. So do make sure that you use that option. And the best way to make the most of that, if you don't have enough connections, is to add additional administrators who do have a good sized network, and encourage them to invite people each month. You literally just click invite and you select the people that you want from your connection list to invite them to follow you as a company profile. So that's the top tips I would have for marketing. The things I'd avoid as a marketer with LinkedIn, especially if you're at school, just be very careful, because typically what you'll see is that current parents, current customers, they're the ones that are going to be initially engaging with your content. So make sure, for example, if you're in education technology, if you're providing an offer for your platform, make sure that it's open to current customers. And if you're marketing out, say, an independent school, make sure that everything that you're marketing out is going to be relevant to both current parents and also potential parents. From a recruitment point of view, when you're using your company profile to post jobs, be very aware that as an independent school, you're likely to be getting people apply for jobs that are current parents, and they may well not be suitable for jobs, and it can put you in an awkward position declining them. But also you typically find that you get people apply for job roles that just simply aren't suitable for those roles, and they are applying because, say you're an independent school, they might want a discount on school fees. Say you're a state school, they might just want it because they feel like they've got an advantage by their child going to your school. So it's just a bit of a word of caution there, that in those early days, really think about what you're sharing. From a recruitment point of view, my top tip would be to research your job titles. It's so important to get job titles right at the moment. So for example, if you're a HR director and you wanted to recruit for a recruitment manager and you weren't sure what you're going to get as with different job titles, filter on people once you've searched for the title you're considering, filter the location because it changes by country, and then use all filters to filter on industry. So say we're a school, as we were saying earlier, we want primary and secondary education, and we want to be able to see in the United Kingdom what are people using as a job title. So I can scroll through and I can see, for example, a bit of a pattern. It might be that I know that these people or these companies are recruitment agencies, so it might be that people only use in the education sector a recruitment manager when they're working for a recruitment agency. So the types of people that you're going to attract if you advertise using that title may well be from recruitment agency. You may want that, you may not. The opposite side of my consideration might be talent acquisition manager. I can put in that title, still keep it filtered on the sector, and I can go through and I can have a look at who uses that title within the sector. Maybe I want to know the types of backgrounds they have, or maybe I even want to consider them for the job. But initially, let's use this for the job title. So I can see that this person's come from a particular background, and I can see when I click on people what type of companies they've worked for. And that helps me, if I do that for a number of profiles, it helps me to get an idea of, if I use a particular job title, what's the type of person going to be that I'll receive applying for my job, and if I use another job title, how's that going to impact my search? For recruitment, my biggest piece of advice really comes down to the fact that you should be sharing content that's relevant for your target audience. So that doesn't necessarily mean just sharing jobs. It does mean sharing things like, if you need IT technicians, share content about the scale, the software that you're using, the cybersecurity of your IT team. That will encourage people to share it with their network, and it will mean that people that come across your job and content and information are more likely to engage with it, more likely to click see more, and therefore you're going to increase the value of it. As I said, you do need to be a bit careful. Don't bombard your network with recruitment. And the best way to recruit using LinkedIn is to get each of the heads of department, each of the people in your senior management and senior leadership teams to grow a relevant network for the types of roles that they're going to have within their department. That means that when you share a job or some information about your maths department, your head of maths will be able to share that content and it will get pushed out to suitable people. Hopefully you found this information useful. Do feel free to contact us, and we're very happy to talk people through if you get stuck. We're very happy to share some tips and tricks, so do reach out to us if we can help you. But thank you very much for listening.